Hey everyone, it is February in 2019. It is time for another team's recap. You are going to have to bear with me today, though. There is a very large amount of tabs in my browser to go over. There has been a lot of news across many different areas with Microsoft Teams over the last about a month. It's been about a month since the last recap, and I wish I had gotten one out. With as much news as there is, I really could have had a weekly recap over this last stretch. But I have not had that kind of time available to get in there and do that many recaps. So here we are, about a month later, and I'm going to try to breeze through the browser tabs as fast as I can while still giving you the pertinent information. As always, all the links will be provided in the video in case you want to go ahead and snap the QR codes or memorize the URL really quickly so that you can visit the content yourself after I'm done talking about it and read up a little more thoroughly. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the content. You knew I was going to do it. You knew I was going to start with a update on Comms v Next. Comms v Next to 2019, the planning, the announcements, all the stuff going on with Comms v Next is well underway for 2019. And as you can see here, we are set for June 5th and 6th, 2019 in Denver again at the Renaissance Stapleton. The conference will actually be at the Renaissance this year, as well as the ability for you to stay on site for your convenience if you so choose. And things are going very well. What I wanted to give an update on is we have sponsorship updates over here. First, registration is open. These are early bird prices, okay? These are going to eventually go up. So if you're wanting to get in at the best deal you can, go ahead and get registered early. And then this is the bundle if you want to take advantage of staying on site. Really the best value there. But as we go down, we are 111 days away. We are starting to announce speakers. We have Heidi Glutemans from Microsoft who will be delivering our keynote. We've got Brian Ricks, John Cook, Jamie Stark, our keynote from last year, Stola Hansen, Tom Morgan, Tom Arbuthnot, and Doug Laudy. Some really heavy hitters in the Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams unified communications world. As you can tell, this is just the first few. There are more to trickle out throughout this week, and then a lot more to be announced after the call for content closes. So stay tuned. A lot more speakers are going to be announced, and then the agenda will get solidified shortly after that. Really excited. We've got people coming in internationally this year to speak. So this is pretty cool. We are very, very excited about that. On the sponsorship side, we've got both of our platinum spots filled up with Landis Technologies and Logitech. Our gold has AnyNode from TE Systems and their AnyNode SPC, Audio Codes, Converge One, Jabra, and Pexip. And then moving down to silver, so far we have Mnemonics and Plantronics Polycom, and we have, I want to say, another handful, 3 or 4 that are about to be announced very soon in the silver space. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that. A lot of traction happening right now, and the registrations are already trickling in. Huge thank you to the sponsors that are making this possible already. Definitely excited to see those of you that have registered here in June. And if you have any questions, of course, about the event, feel free to hit us up, Twitter, LinkedIn, or support@commsvnext.com. Okay, we'll stop with the shameless self-plug for Comms v Next, and we'll jump over to the news here. Look at the number of tabs I have to go over. This is a lot, so bear with me. We are going to get through it as quickly as we can. Let's start with the roundup. Microsoft has made my job a lot easier by putting these monthly roundups out there about everything that's new with the Microsoft Teams. I'm going to kind of pick through this as I feel is necessary, but let's start right up top here. First, Microsoft Teams Rooms. I got to mention this on social media, but have not had a Teams recap that covered this yet. The Skype Room systems have been rebranded to Microsoft Teams Rooms. They're not Teams Room systems. They are Microsoft Teams Rooms. So make sure you have that branding change down. Timed with that announcement, there are a lot of cool new devices that are coming out, as well as devices that had already been talked about at Ignite last year. And of course, all the room systems that had been working with Skype room systems are now able to work in both Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. So you can read more about the rebranding at this blog post highlighted right here. And they also put a nice, big, huge video right in the middle if you want to check out a little bit about that. Teams only mode. This is really cool. People have been talking about the different modes for upgrading to Teams from Skype for Business for quite some time now, but the actual number of nodes available has been very tiny. So now we have the Teams only mode, and this allows you to flip a user to full-on Teams for all their unified communications capabilities. A user that's in Teams only mode will no longer be able to access Skype for Business online or the Skype for Business client. They will instead be redirected to Teams, and that's where they will do chat, audio, video, meetings, PSTN calling, the whole 9 yards. So Teams only mode should be in your tenant now. If it's not there, it would be rolling out, and you should see it very soon. All right, so working with confidence, some new features here. We've got new usage reports, things that'll help you identify device usage, user activity, make sure that adoption is on track in the organization. Team templates. This was talked about at Ignite, and it is now here via a new REST endpoint that's part of the Microsoft Graph API, and they give you a separate link to go and learn more about that. But this is really exciting. Instead of just being able to create a team from an existing team within the Teams interface, we can now use the Graph Explorer API to put some snippets of code in there and create new teams with predefined sets of information. Really exciting development and really a welcome part of managing teams in any organization. Right following up on that, we have some industry-based templates for creating teams that Microsoft has released, and a few key verticals. EDU, okay, education is a big space in Teams. There is all kinds of custom tools out there for the classroom and educators, so it only makes sense that the education vertical would have their own templates released by Microsoft, as they mentioned here, such as class, staff, and PLC teams. It's definitely something to check out if you are an EDU getting into Microsoft Teams. Retail templates, so stuff for store and manager collaboration teams, and then healthcare templates. Education and healthcare have been two areas that Microsoft has put a ton of focus on for adoption scenarios within Microsoft Teams. So we have those healthcare templates there, templates that cover things such as a ward or different hospital teams that communicate. And we're going to get into some more healthcare items in just a minute here. And then first line workers, I believe we've already talked about this previously. They are going back over the fact that first line workers, what was previously called shifts, is now, well, it is shifts, but this is now available within Microsoft Teams, both on the desktop and then in the mobile client. Really cool capabilities. We've talked about it before, so I'm not going to dive deep into what it does. Just know that it's here, and if you need to learn more about what shifts is, and how shifts can be utilized within different teams to enable first-line workers with their schedules and announcements and all that kind of stuff, check out the blog post that is linked to right here. And then finally, some good old development stuff with bots. Customize your team with bots and third-party integrations. So the preview release of .NET Teams Bot Builder version 4 SDK, that's there. And then the monthly spotlight, they always like to highlight new apps or updates to apps or new bots. So we have the Karma bot, MindMaster, and more that they were highlighting here. Of course, they give us a little bit of a preview of these and links to more specific information on each one. So if these are up your alley, you are into using bots in your organization or want to explore doing that, some really good information being highlighted this month. And that's it. Of course, they're always seeking feedback on user voice, and it is a very active place because a lot of you have a lot of feedback to give. So if you want to know what kind of things have been suggested for Microsoft Teams feature-wise, and you'd like to vote up some of those things, go out to user voice. Or if you have your own idea you want to submit, go to user voice and do that there. All right, let's jump over to some more healthcare news. So, new capabilities. And they timed this with the HIMSS 2019 conference, of course. Good timing by the marketing department. There is a full blog post here detailing these things, but we're going to stick with the high-level stuff because we have a lot to cover. Sending urgent messages with priority notifications. So if you saw this demo at Ignite, you know what it is. Essentially, you can send a message to somebody, mark it as a priority so that it looks urgent to them, and they will continue to get, every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes. They're going to keep getting pestered that there is an urgent message requiring their attention. So the availability for this, it's in private preview. If you want to join, here is the email address you're going to reach out to. Not available for everybody yet, but definitely something that if you're in healthcare, this is something you're going to want to look into and think about how it's going to fit into your hospital, your medical organization. Private preview. Check out urgent messages. Let's jump down to assign a delegate. Now, when I first heard about assigning a delegate for messaging, I wasn't thinking about it in the context of hospitals and healthcare. So I thought to myself, why would I want to delegate anybody else to send messages on my behalf? That seems really dicey. That seems a little dangerous. I can't imagine too many scenarios where I would want to do that. It's not like delegates for calling. This is a little more personal with messaging. But looking at the demo here and looking at the use case, for example, while in surgery, okay? So you're a doctor and you're using Teams strictly for work, and you need to be talking to people quite regularly on the team. Well, when you go into surgery, that can be hours at a time. Having somebody else be able to handle messages for you in the meantime could be a very important feature. So this is actually really neat to see. Take note though, not available yet. It is coming soon. Next up, integrating FHIR-enabled electronic health records, EHR, with Teams. So we looked at this a little bit during Ignite. We have Teams has a new tab in here called Patients, and we have all kinds of patient records being brought in, records that can be updated and added. Really cool stuff. This also is in private preview. You can read more about it from Microsoft here or learn more from their partners at the bottom link here. All kinds of applications of where this could be useful in a healthcare organization. I tested this today, actually, outside of a healthcare scenario because it's available now in both Teams mobile apps for iOS and Android, and it's the ability to securely share images with Smart Camera. So you start a chat. I tried this within a team, actually, within a channel. You start a message, you go to add a picture, you say take a photo, and then you take the picture, you mark it up, do what you need to do, and you send it. And once you send it, I went and looked in my gallery to see if that picture existed in the gallery, stored locally on my device, and sure enough, it was not. Very cool to see that. So if you have iOS and Android Teams mobile apps, you can take this for a spin now. Check it out. Okay, planning and creating schedules with shifts. I'm not going to go into this one because we just talked about what shifts was and the fact that it's there. Just know this could be a very important thing with hospitals. They go on shifts. Hospitals are open 24 hours. So it's important to manage shifts appropriately. Having this kind of live on-the-fly access to an evolving shift can be critical. This is available on both Teams, desktop and mobile, and they give you the support documentation here for rolling that out. And then lastly, the Teams templates. We already talked about that. Again, you have the links there. It is available now, so check that out. And then rich mobile message federation. So we're talking about the ability to federate with other Teams organizations with more of a rich experience, not just text-based federation chat. So one-to-one chats, group chats, as well as that rich content like your files and emojis and text markup, all that stuff, that is coming soon. I don't know how soon. That's just, take it for what it's worth when they say coming soon. And there we go. Another link for user voice at the bottom. Look at that. We're 3 tabs in. We're getting there. This next post, this is a long blog post, so I'm going to skim through it as fast as I can here. Randy Chapman, very well-known voice and blogger in the Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams community. He is blogging about an announcement that Microsoft made just a week or so ago here on the end of unified messaging and Exchange Online. So what he does is he starts out by giving you a very good overview and history of what unified messaging is, how it's been used in previous iterations of the Microsoft UC environments on-prem, the fact that it was brought into Exchange Online. He gives you a little bit of background on Microsoft's previous announcements for ending third-party PBX connectivity to Exchange Online for voicemail access. And then he goes into this most recent announcement. So he brings the whole history to you, which leads to this point in time. And that is that there was a post called Retiring Unified Messaging in Exchange Online put out February 8th on the Microsoft You Hadn't Yet ELO blog. They stated, and he's quoted them here, that the Exchange UM is being retired from Exchange Online, and you're going to be replacing that, if you're using it, with cloud voicemail and auto attendant services. Keep in mind, auto attendant is a function and a feature of Exchange UM. Now, auto attendant is a separate service in Microsoft phone system, as is cloud voicemail. One thing they note down here, that the processing of voicemails and auto attendant in Exchange Online is what is changing. The storage of voicemails is going to continue to be supported in Exchange Online and your on-premises servers. Now, an important piece here, the following servers connecting to Exchange UM Online will be transitioned by Microsoft to cloud voicemail on or before February 2020. We're in February 2019. They are giving us a year at this stage before this is shut off in Exchange Online. So if you were on Link Server 2013 or Skype for Business Server 2015, Microsoft will be migrating you over to cloud voicemail. If you're Link 2010, you need to start doing some planning and work on your own there. Customers using the above-mentioned servers to connect to Exchange UM Online will be transitioned to cloud voicemail by Microsoft. The transitioning times will vary depending upon how your company has utilized the UM features. So Microsoft has kind of taken a census of all the people, all the organizations using this service, and they have decided who they're going to auto migrate, at what rate they're going to do that, and in what order they're going to do that based on the complexity of how you're using Exchange Online UM. The first groups, however, are happening this month, February 2019, and transitioned in March 2019. So notifications will start this month. Transitioning will start next month. There are a couple things you can request an extension, but regardless of you requesting an extension and them approving it, the final retirement date is February 2020. So even if you get postponed, this is the latest you've got. So it's time to start planning for a change. What's next here? We dive into this. So again, he points to an accompanying post, but customers that are using these features in Exchange Online, you will be affected. We got voicemail, auto attendant, and fax. Fax is not mentioned as part of the move. You're going to need to find a new solution for fax. Now with the, let's see. Yes. So if you are voicemail only migrations will be completed by March, but the support post here shows that May 2019 is actually the completion date for that. So we have kind of a highlighted overview of when you're going to be migrated, what category you might fit into. Another thing that he calls out in here is that if you're using auto attendant, that's not going to be handled by Microsoft. You need to transition auto attendants yourself. So before Microsoft moves you off of voicemail, or in addition to them moving you off of voicemail, you're going to have to start exploring auto attendant within phone system, moving numbers over and planning that all out, because that's not going to be an automatic thing. The shutdown of it will be automatic in February of 2020, so you need to plan that now. That was okay. So we have that piece. Voicemail again. Microsoft is driving that part of the migration, and then fax is not mentioned. So your options. Randy does a good job of highlighting a few things out here. There are, for the PBX vendors that are still using Exchange Online, you need to find another service to deliver voicemail and auto attendance. If you're looking for your other options, Link or Skype for Business server customers have a few. One is to install Exchange 2016 UM server and keep it going as long as you can. This is going to work for both the PBXs and your Link and Skype for Business server installs. Another is to use a third-party service for voicemail. Okay, but that might not be what everybody's a little clamoring to do at this point. For hybrid setups, Link and Skype for Business Server, cloud voicemail is going to be an option there, and it is currently in some cases. So you have that option. You can also evaluate cloud auto attendance and see if that's going to work for you. There's a lot of enhancements that have happened to that recently, so check out that option. The last option that I love this option. Don't have voicemail. Just get away from it. A lot of organizations look at it as legacy and something that just isn't even used, and so they want to get it out of their environments. There are many organizations that make good arguments about how it's still used and what it's used for, and the fact that it's just not time for their orgs to get off of it, but those are some good suggestions and options to think about if you are in this bucket of people who are going to have to get off of Exchange Online UM. So there we go. This is a long blog post. It is thorough, and it has all the information you need to figure this out. Please go check this out and read it in its entirety on your own if you are affected, so that you know what your options are, what your timelines are, and what action you need to take next. Okay, here we go. Some Teams meetings and calling news roundup that came at the end of January. Some of this we already touched on, so I'm going to skim through all that stuff, okay? First, there are a few features. These were the last few enterprise-grade voice features to cross the finish line for the roadmap when it comes to voice and Microsoft Teams. Group call pickup, call park, and shared line appearance, now available in Microsoft Teams. Freaking cool. Location-based routing is in public preview, but you can go and read more about each of these features and how they are used and what they specifically mean if you're not familiar with them at the blog post that my cursor is over. Next up, they have updated that PDF roadmap that we have been referring to for over a year now. Pretty much everything has a check mark on it. All right, there's one or two things that are rolling out or being delivered soon, but it's just one big spreadsheet or one big PDF of everything is checked off. We completed the roadmap. So you can go check out the roadmap if you want. It definitely helps with knowing where things stand, but really not much to touch on there. We already talked about Teams only being available. We'll skip that. We don't want to skip it too much. There are a lot of links that Microsoft has provided in this section. That is important to know because Microsoft has put a ton of documentation and guidance out there for how to make your transition to Teams only from a Skype for Business organization. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of possible paths you can take. There's a lot of interop modes that you can take. A whole lot of gotchas too. It is important to start familiarizing yourself with this stuff. If it seems like a ton and you're just swimming in information that you don't have time to manage, that might be when you want to connect with one of your trusted providers or partners in the Microsoft space that can help you with navigating that stuff. Yeah, you've got a good number of partners out there, and I would advise talking to them at this stage if this feels like something that you might need help with. But again, Teams only mode is there. Automated and assisted upgrades. This is a fine piece of marketing work up here that I'm going to go ahead and let you read for yourself. Microsoft began offering Microsoft-driven automated upgrades for customers that may not have the dedicated staff or resources to upgrade Skype for Business Online tenants on their own. Very, very nice offering there. So anyway, I'm not going to comment all the things that I'm thinking about the wordsmithing there. You read that, see what you think. There is some automated upgrades that are happening now and will continue to happen. So familiarize yourself with that if you might be affected. We already talked about Teams Rooms, and that is the end of this roundup. Now, we just talked about location-based routing being in preview. Very cool stuff. If you are ready to start taking a look at that, testing that, you're doing direct routing and you want to use location-based routing, there is documentation that has finally been published out on docs.microsoft.com, and this is it. So, if you want to go and read up on what this is going to look like to configure location-based routing once it's finally out of preview, check out this post, read through it. I'm not going to do that for you right now. It is a technical document, so have at it. Okay, let's do a couple device announcements. We talked about the fact that Microsoft Teams Rooms have been rebranded, and this whole space is kind of changing and evolving to include all these new Teams devices. And a couple partners had a couple new products that they announced over the last few weeks here. First up, Plantronics/Polycom enters the huddle room space with the Polycom Studio. So this was announced back on January 29th. I'm not going to go into all that. Here's a quick look at the device, but it is an all-in-one plug-and-play device that is set up for your huddle room scenarios. So these are small little rooms where you don't have a big sprawling setup. You have one little device that's got everything: your speakers, your video, your mic, all that stuff, one device, plug and play. There you go. Of course, it works with Teams and Skype for Business, but it also works with a number of other providers that are not as awesome in Teams and Skype for Business, so we're not going to cover them. But that's there you go. That's the Polycom Studio. Check it out. Next up, Logitech. Logitech had another announcement out there as well. They introduced the Tap. So Logitech was one of the first to be out with an actual Skype room system. They had the Smart Dock way back when things were first announced and first released. And now they have announced the release of Logitech Tap, which, if you read through this, you'll see has been built from the ground up specifically for Microsoft Teams. You look at the form factor here. This is a really neat device. There are a number of options that you can get this with. Okay, there's a lot of details that I'm going to leave out, and I'd like you to read them, but there are several options that you can purchase. The packages will be available in spring of 2019 through their distributors and resellers. The expected price ranges: $3,000 for small rooms, $4,000 for medium rooms, and $5,000 for your large ones. And then we kind of get a brief view of what all is included with each of these sizes. We've got our large room up top. We've got our medium-sized room in the middle and our small room at the bottom. Obviously, we don't have our remote puck-styled speakers and mics that are spread throughout the table and the small room like we do with the medium and the large. But we have a couple different camera options, speaker options, and then they all come with the same form factor up here for the touchscreen device. So pretty handy looking thing. Kind of cool to see a new built for Teams device out there. Definitely something for you to check out and consider. Both of these last two vendors, by the way, partners, are sponsors at CommsVNext. So if you would like to see these devices in person and get your hands on them, I would suggest you head on over to commsvnext.com and get registered so that you can check them out in person at these partner booths at CommsVNext 2019. Okay, that was a lot of speaking, a lot of words, a lot of tabs. I tried to get through it as fast as I could. I probably went a little bit long, but thank you for bearing with me. I hope that the information was useful, educational, helpful, and maybe even a wee bit entertaining at moments. But thank you for tuning in today, and especially thank you if you're going to retweet or share this with your audience as well. That's always appreciated, as is feedback. Let me know what you thought. Hopefully we'll see you back here for the next Teams recap.